Good morning, class. Please come back. Good morning, Rupa. Good morning, Roshan. Yes, Shilpi. Good morning. Come. I'll just wait 2 minutes. Okay. Shall I start? I'm doing something very interesting. You all must have heard about the economic depression or the financial turmoil that happened in the world in the year 2008 2009. It began from the United States and spiraled into all over the world financial calamities, but mostly the United States was affected. What happened is what I'm trying to. Sunita, good morning. Sandeep, good morning. Wait 1 minute. Prashant, good morning. Varti, good morning. Sujan, good morning. Yes, Prashant. Teja, yeah, I'm starting Teja, yeah. So, what happened? We have to see. See, there were several reasons for the economic turmoil of 2000, financial turmoil of 2008 in the United States. The first thing who stands accused are the subprime lenders. What do you mean by subprime lenders? I'll give you an example. Imagine there is a person who wants a loan. He goes to the bank. The bank will give him a format and they'll say, fill up this format. Now, in this format, they'll ask, do you own a house? He'll say yes. Do you own a car? He'll say yes. Do you own a two-wheeler? He'll say yes. Do you have? Are you in a salaried job? He'll say yes. Government, private? He'll say yes. Something like this. So for every yes, Murtaza, good morning. Wait 1 minute. Yes, Nasir. Sabin, yes. Madhavi, yes. Good. So, for every yes that he ticks, he gets some points. If he gets points above a certain amount, he qualifies for a loan. Now, what do you mean by this? The bank has verified whether you are capable of repaying your loan. All right. So, this is called credit worthiness. Now, imagine a situation where now this person who now bank becomes a prime lender. Okay, bank becomes a prime lender. Imagine this person took 10 lakhs from the bank because he has capability of paying back, and the bank asked him 10% interest. He has capacity to pay, he has taken 10 lakhs. When he goes home, imagine a friend of his calls and says, see, man, I don't have a job, neither do I have a house, and neither do I have a car, but I badly want 3 lakh rupees. Can you lend me 3 lakhs? Now, this man will think, I have to pay 10% to the bank. So, I have no guarantee this man doesn't have a job or a house or a car or anything that I can talk about and say, I can, you sell this, sell the house and give me back my money, sell the car and give me back my money. I cannot say that. There's no collateral. So, I will give you the money, but you must give me 18%. Why? 10% to pay to the bank, and out of that 18%, it is profit for me plus the risk I'm taking. By giving to you, I'm taking a very big risk. So this person, Mr. A, who goes and borrows from the bank, becomes a subprime lender because he's giving money, he's lending money to someone from whom he has no guarantee that the money will come back. You understand? So subprime lending is risky business. Because it is risky business, it fetches you a high amount, high interest rate. Who are the people who take from subprime lenders? Poor people. Poor people who cannot afford end up paying the highest interest rates just because they cannot afford to do prime lender. They have to go into subprime lenders. Subprime lenders will charge you for the risk they are taking. The risk they are taking of not, that the money will never come back. So the what happened in America was, first of all, too much of subprime lending. The first thing, okay. Then the second thing was, okay, 1 minute. Okay, second was the property housing loan scam. What happened is, see, when you go, you want to buy a house, the bank or commercial institutions will give you money. Now in America, what happened? For example, in India, see, we have a system where if you want a credit card, they will verify whether you are able to pay back your credit, whatever credit you have taken. So, according to your status only, you will get credit. All right? You will not get credit for more than what you can afford. Your credit card has a limit. Everyone's credit card has a limit. But in the United States, what happened? A lot of credit is given. Once I had read a suicide case. A Indian couple committed suicide. Why? Because they could not pay back their loans that they paid. This is a true story. And I was reading, I said the man owned more than 30 credit cards, 30, 30. And the wife owned more than 20, 22 or 27 or something like that credit cards. One credit card is such a headache to pay back. Imagine having 20, 30, total of 50 credit cards among between them. A credit card generally, if you ask me, entices you to spend more than what you can afford. If you see a nice dress or a sari or something like that, and you feel like spending because you says, oh, I'll pay my I can pay when I get my salary. But then this will continue, the cycle just continues. So in India you would not get credit cards. Your credit cards have a upper limit. But what happened here is, in the United States, the when you took a housing loan, suppose you says, I don't have such a good job. So the housing company would tell you, do you think in after 2 years also you will be like this? You will be in a much better financial position. So I'll give you a deal. Say Mr. A approaches a bank or a financial institution. He wants to buy a property. He wants to buy his own house. So he will say, I do not have a very good this thing. I'm only getting $2,000. I can afford to give you $500 per month. Imagine a hypothetical situation. The housing company, I believe, used to tell the people, do you think after 2 years or in the third year from today, you will not be earning 2,000, you will be earning 5,000, isn't it? So I'll give you a deal. For the first 2 years, you pay only $400. Okay? EMI. After the completion of 2 years, in the third year onwards, you start paying me $1,000 EMI. So the person who buys the house is happy. For the first 2 years, I'm going to pay only $400, which I can easily afford. And after 2 years, I will get a better job. And that time, $1,000 will not be a issue for me. So he goes ahead and buys the house. So this is what happened in the United States. there were housing companies who offered many people housing loans at for the first 2 years at a lower interest rate or EMI, and after the third year higher. See, there has to be a miracle that has to happen, a small miracle that has to happen in every house. Whoever bought the houses, in everyone's life, there has to be a small miracle that has to happen, because in the third year you have to start paying $1,000. But sadly, given the economic situation of the United States, this little miracle didn't happen in many, many, many people's lives. When the third year came, they were still earning their previous salary and they could not pay the enhanced EMI. When the enhanced EMI cannot be paid, naturally the bank or the financial institution goes there and takes over the property. Now, this happened in the United States, the property was taken over. Now, when suppose look at the financial institution, they have given him say $20,000 for the property. Imagine, I'm not aware of how much property costs in the United States. Let's say $20,000, and they have to recover. They have hardly recovered $1,500. They have to recover the $18,500, and if they have to recover, they must sell this house at least for $18,500. But what happened in the United States is nobody wanted the property because people didn't have money like this. See, I'm going. If I say I want to sell my glasses, and some of you say, "Ma'am, 100 rupees." Someone will say 200 rupees. Someone will say 500 rupees. Someone will say 50 rupees. Okay. Now the price of this will be the highest price I'm offered. Suppose someone says 500, I'll sell it for 500. Suppose the highest I get is 200, I'll sell it for 200. Suppose nobody wants it, I sell it for zero. I don't sell it at all. Okay. So this is what happened with the property. This thing. This was the second cause for the financial turmoil of 2008. Now let's go to the other reasons. Okay. Now one is subprime. This one. Now one more thing. The subprime loans were made into attractive financial packages. Okay, attractive financial packages, and these financial packages as a product were traded on markets, financial markets. Okay, this I was telling you about this. Suppose a person wanted to buy a house, he was not only given the package money, he was given a financial package, and this financial package was traded on financial markets. That what happened, I explained to you what happened to the product only of the house. What do you think will happen for the financial package? Okay, then next, there is something called short selling. See, short selling is, you'll see this, he borrows the share from the owner. The share is then sold, and when the purchase price drops, it is returned to the original owner, and the short seller pockets the price. Okay, Mr. A borrows from Mr. B the shares B owns, and he sells the shares. Because the shares are being sold, the price falls. People think people are sometimes short sellers purposely sell the some something like this. They'll make some make the share price fall or rise, etc. So when the share price rises, they buy the share, and whatever difference they pocket. That is one thing. Short selling was happening. So there was no real selling of shares. All right, there was no real selling of shares. Then one more thing is paying a marginal price and buying the shares. See, when you buy the shares, you pay a marginal amount. You don't pay the full amount. When it came to paying the full amount, people didn't have money. So the transaction remained half done. It was neither sold nor was it bought. So these are the reasons that brought about the economic, financial, or the financial turmoil of 2008 2009. Okay, hope you liked what I said. Yeah, shall I continue? I'm going to continue into the Great Depression. Okay, you must have heard about the Great Depression in various contexts from the United States. Okay, various contexts. The reasons one by one I have given you in the PowerPoints. I'll explain to you in my own way. See, the First World War was between 1914 and 1918. During any war, what people, the governments of a country concentrate not on the food, they concentrate on manufacturing. I'm not saying now, in 1914, because it was a world war, many countries were at war, and being someone's ally means you have to do what they ask you to do. If they say you're going to supply the planes, or another country is going to supply the navy, another country is going to supply the ammunition, so they have to support each other because they need their countries to be safe, isn't it? So they join together as an ally and they fight. So what happened is ultimately no one wins a war, only the commercial manufacturers who manufactured planes and all, they make the money. No one wins a war. No one really wins a war. Think about it. When there's a war, who benefits? The one who makes all these rockets, tanks, bullets, guns. They are the ones who make money. Who else benefits? No one. You lose your peace, you lose your property, you lose people's lives. War is nobody, there's no, according to me, there's no victory in war. Now, here we are. We will come to the situation in the world in 1914 to 1918. Most countries, especially the European countries, concentrated on manufacturing arms, ammunition, etc. They concentrated on building tanks for war, fighter planes, ships, etc. So the food production or the food sector suffered. Now, if you see the First World War, America did not join the war. It joined the war at the end because American passengers were there on a British ship, and that British ship was attacked by the German allies. So that's the only reason they joined the war, and the war ended. So America was not economically harmed at all. Very, very tiny dent. It was not at all harmed. Whereas European nations had fought very badly, and so they had not concentrated on their food production. So there was a huge shortage of food in the European countries. All right, in the European countries there was a huge shortage of food. So what happened is, um, America is a very big country. Farmers in America started putting in more effort and growing more food so that they could support or sell this produce to European countries. The first year, people they're saying, okay, fine. The first year, what happened? America produced a lot of extra food, which was all sold to all the European countries because they badly required the food. Fine, beautiful. Second year, also it happened. Do you think European nations will not start manufacturing their own food? By the time 2 or 3 years happened, they had started manufacturing their own food, and there was no demand for the agricultural produce that the American farmers produced. There was food, but there was no money. This was one reason for the Great Depression. Second thing is, people were trading like mad on the stock exchange. They had traded so badly without any base that it was a bubble economy and it had to collapse. It is a bubble, it's like a balloon which goes, the wider it bursts, the bigger sound it makes and bursts. And it so happened. There was, some people call it Black Thursday, some call it Black Tuesday. One fine day, the stock exchange collapsed. Because the stock exchange collapsed, 600 banks in the United States closed. 600 banks closed. See, when a bank fails, there are mainly two reasons for a bank to fail. The first reason is an investor gives money into the bank. The bank runs on investors' money. Suppose there are 1000 investors who have invested 1 lakh each into the bank, and that is the basic capital of the bank. Okay. Suppose all these investors in a single day go to the bank and say, I want my 1 lakh back. 1000 investors who invested 1 lakh in the bank to start the bank go and say on one particular day, we have lost faith in you. All of us, all 100 of us want our 1 lakh back. Then this is the first reason a bank can fail. When investors, all the investors, or 99% all the investors, let's not deviate from that. When all the investors go and demand their money back from a bank, this is the first reason a bank can fail. The second reason a bank can fail is, see, imagine Mr. A goes to the bank and deposits 1 lakh rupees. The bank tells him, I'll give you 6% interest. All right. So now Mr. A is confidently, we call it risk-free rate, because banks, when you put your money in the bank, it's supposed to be so safe. We call it risk-free rate of return. So Mr. A goes and puts 1 lakh rupees in the bank, and the bank tells him, I'm going to give you 6% interest. Now the bank should go and invest this money somewhere. Where I'll tell you where. Usually they'll invest in government securities, etc., because it's very safe. When government wants to, say, build some flyovers, for the flyover project they require money, and they take from banks, etc., and give them the interest. All right. So these are called gilt-edged securities. Gilt means gold. Why do you call it gilt-edged securities? In the 1800s, etc., late 1800s, I believe, if you gave money to the bank, they would give you to the government. The government would give you a certificate where the edges of it would be tilted with a little gold. Okay, like you have your projects, they give you a small gold clip to put on the edge of the this thing. That is a gilt-edged. So it's called a gilt-edged security. Now let us come back to our bank example. I told you the first reason for a bank to fail is when the investors all want their money back. The second reason a bank fails is when you fail to elicit interest from your investment in order to cover the interest paid to Mr. A, your expenses and salaries, and your profit. So Mr. A goes to the bank and gives the bank, deposits in the bank 1 lakh rupees. Bank tells him, I'll give you 6% interest. So the bank should put this 1 lakh, invest this 1 lakh in a place where they will get their 6% interest to pay to Mr. A. They will get, say, 4% more for salaries, for the bank maintenance, etc. That 4% has to come. It became 6 plus 4, 10%. Plus, say, if they do not get a profit, they cannot function, another 4%. So 10 plus 4, 14%. So Mr. A's investment should be reinvested at a minimum of 14%. All right, Mr. A's investment should be reinvested at this thing of 14%. 6% to give to A, 4% for their expenses, 4% for the profit that is mandatorily required to run the bank further. So this is one thing. And okay, let's come back. Due to the bubble, the stock exchange collapsed. 600 banks in the United States collapsed. Okay. Now, here you have, you see the pictures I've given you. In 1929, many Americans had invested in the stock market. Okay, Dow Jones is like our Sensex, and you see this. The Dow reached a high in 1929 of 381 points. In 1924, it was 81 points. In 5 years, 300 points it had risen. Don't you think this was a bubble economy? So problems with the economy emerged. Too many people were doing speculating and they were buying on margin. I told you, no, the shares were etc. were bought on margin. If the share is 100 rupees, you paid only 10 rupees and bought it. So when it came to paying the rest 90 rupees, they didn't have money. So the transactions remained half done. So that way nobody had money, the buyer didn't have, the seller didn't get, etc. So October 24th, the market took a plunge. On October 29th, known as Black Tuesday, some even call it Black Thursday, Black Tuesday, the bottom fell out. 16.4 million shares were sold that day. Prices plummeted. So people landed up with huge debts that bought on margin, etc. You can see the diagrams here. Okay. The stock market crash signaled the beginning of the Great Depression. It continued till for 11 years, 1929 to 1940. Unemployment skyrocketed. It is said the American mafia stepped in. You know what's mafia? I'll not explain. They stepped in and started something called soup kitchens. I don't know whether they gave soup kitchens where people could go and eat something. I don't know whether they gave just soup and something in the soup, but basically they say it was the mafia who stepped in and ran what we call the soup kitchen. People didn't have jobs, they didn't have houses, they slept on the roads. You can see it in these sites of these thing in Charlie Chaplin movies. What happened in the United States in the Charlie Chaplin movies. Okay, so after the crash, Americans panicked and withdrew their money. When they withdraw the money, I told you this is the one reason why banks fail. In 1929, 600 banks failed. By 1933, 11,000 of the 25, there were 25,000 banks in the United States, 11,000 had failed. So this was the gross national product. You can see this. I have given you step by step, etc. So you can see the Mexican peso crisis. I'll talk about the Asian financial crisis. See, multinationals came or foreigners invested. Foreign FDI and FII we have. Foreign direct investment where you go and put into manufacturing firms, or you have the financial foreign institutional investors where you invest directly in the economy of the country. Now, we'll come to one second. Okay, there was something called the Asian crisis. See, when if I ask you, I'll ask y'all. Suppose you're getting lottery. This lottery is given to you on the condition that you invest it in a proper way. All the money you invested in a proper way. Reinvest it. So if I ask you, once I asked in the class, I think many times, someone will say 10 lakhs, ma'am. I can handle 10 lakhs effectively. Once someone told me, ma'am, I can invest 3 crores because I want to start a college, school and college. I require 3 crores. So I know my project plan is ready. If I get 3 crores, I can invest all of it. That was the biggest amount told by my students. If you say honestly, don't bluff. How much can you handle? Can you handle 20 lakhs? Can you handle 50 lakhs? Some people said, yes, I can handle up to 70 lakhs, ma'am, because this is what I'm going to do it. So, how do you say I can handle so much? Because you have the background. the person who had the idea of the school had the background, he had the project plan ready, knew where to invest, how to invest, etc. You had an infrastructure ready. When you tell me, ma'am, I can invest 10 lakhs effectively, then you have the background. You know, I have this uncle who can put my money in this place, another place, my father will help me to invest here. So, totally 10 lakhs I can handle. Someone can handle 30, someone can handle 40. Why? Because you have the background, you have the infrastructure. Similarly, when money pours into a country, if your banking economy, your credit structure, your financial markets, your money markets, capital markets, all these, if they are not formed into a pakka infrastructure, you cannot handle the money. So the Asian crisis was the same thing. Multinational came into many countries of Asia and started pumping in money. The economy could not handle the money that was pumped in. The infrastructure, financial infrastructure, was not strong. It is not so in our country. We have a great financial economic system which cannot easily fail. We have the central bank, we have the banks, we have all the financial infrastructure ready, and we do not give credit unless we know that it can be paid back. So this in many Asian countries, small Asian underdeveloped countries, there was no financial infrastructure, and that is the meaning of the Asian crisis. Okay, now uh, one second. Let me just check what else I plan to tell you. Okay, Asian currency crisis I have explained. Okay, then there was a bailout of the banking sector. Bailout means a government pumping in money. What else? Government pumping in money into the financial sector, into the industrial sector is the bailout. Okay. Now, rest is all you can just read. It's all easy. But the most important things, what I wanted to tell you, I have told. All right. I think there is you have to find out something called a concept in India called Undla Badla, UNDLA Badla. Okay, Badla. You find out that, and it is also one more reason why uh, why the financial turmoil of 2008 happened. Okay, so with this I will stop, and on Monday I will come back and explain to you how the gold standard happened, why people pegged their money on the gold standard, did the gold standard work, till what year it worked, how does the gold standard, how is it fixed, how is money pegged on today? Today, what do we do? Yeah, can we just print money without gold backup? If not, if then, what is the backup? All this I will tell you. I will tell you the financial, yeah, the parity, and how to how to determine the value of a dollar, for example, how to determine the value of a rupee, for example. So I'll start. I have given you the Great Depression today. I'll start from 1885 onwards. Whatever happened, you have the silver standard, you have the pound sterling standard, you have the gold standard. Okay, all this gold coins, etc. Today, what are we running on? How do we determine what is the transaction exposure, translation exposure, economic exposure that you talk in international financial management? So, next class, I will do all this and teach you international financial management. That will be at 9 a.m. sharp on Monday. Thank you for coming back. Please read those PowerPoints. They are very interesting. They are an eye opener. Then, rather than just talking about without superficially, here you will really understand what really happens in the economy. Thank you, class. Shall I? I hope you enjoyed the class. I hope it was useful. Yeah, thanks Najim. Shall I leave? Can I have one more thumbs up? Yeah, thank you. I'll say bye then. Yes, Devika. Bye, ma. God bless you. Yeah, I'm happy. If it enhances your knowledge, Nasir, if it is not opening, you take from someone else. Teja converted it into PDF and gave it to me. That PDF I'll put on the official right now. Okay? Please read. It's an eye opener. I've done the slides with lot of collection from BBC, from CNN, etc. It is made with a lot of effort. Okay? Yes, Malikarjun. Yes, yeah, Rashid. Yes. Thanks, Amin. Thanks, Malikarjun. Thanks, Anjali. Hope you're doing well, Anjali. Barsha. Yes, my one. Thank you, Priksha. Thank you. Yes. Bye. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Yeah. I will put the Teja has converted it into this thing PDF. I'll once I shut down the class, I will take care of it. I know it didn't open for me also. I don't know why. Hmm? Bye bye. God bless. Keep smiling. Stay safe. Stay healthy. God bless. Jai Hind and Jai Karnataka.